structure and the certification process. We should be able to explain the fundamental concepts and principles of quality management system based on ISO 9001. And you should be able to understand the implementation approach of the standard, and you're able to gather useful tips on handling an audit section. This is only an awareness program. There is an internal auditor course. There is a lead implementation course. There is a lead auditor courses. These are higher version of the training, but this awareness provides you the foundational background and gives you knowledge of what the standard is all about, so you can prepare yourself to go for the bigger courses as the case may be and as you may need it. Please, can you mute if you're not speaking? Okay, the next time for this training, just set it so that only the host will be able to mute or speak, please. So ISO 9001 is among ISO's most well-known standards ever. And what is ISO? ISO stands for International Organization for Standardization. That's ISO. And ISO 9001 is among quite a number of numerous standards that the body has in its custody. ISO 9001 are implemented by more than 1 million organizations in some 175 countries. It is a standard for quality management system. It helps organizations to implement quality management. Quality in this context refers to all those features of a product or service which are required by the customer. When we say products, we are talking about tangible items like your biro, your wristwatch, your motor, even your bread. Okay, tangible products. Whereas services refers to those intangible products like consultancy or training, as the case may be. Quality management means what the organization does to ensure that its products or services satisfy the customer's quality requirements and comply with any regulation applicable to those products or services. It also means what the organization does to enhance customer satisfaction and achieve continual improvement of its performance. When we say continual improvement, we are talking about the moment when you pause, assess your system, you see your weakness, you audit yourself, and you say, okay, fine, here is my lapses, and you continue to develop and you continue to grow. Okay? Satisfying of customers, it doesn't end here. You also find a way to exceed your customer expectation. And quality management system gives you that framework to achieve this. So it also means what the organization does to enhance, of course, just like we've explained, customer satisfaction, and of course, continual improvement of our processes. Can I let the host, let the sharing come up, please? Okay, we are continuing. Please, can you mute yourself? That would be nice. And I don't think we want to see your beautiful faces. It will also be nice you hide your videos, as this thing is being streamed live as well. So if you're not speaking, mute yourself, and it'll be nice you also hide your videos as well. Thank you. So generic standard of ISO 9001. ISO 9001 is referred as a generic standard. What do we mean by a generic standard? It is generic in the sense that this standard can be implemented by any organization of any nature, of any size. The police department can implement ISO 9001, if that will surprise you. The custom can implement ISO 9001. Government agencies can implement it. Schools can implement it. A tailor on the street can implement it. Big corporations, be it oil and gas, manufacturing, any sector, any industry, any size, whatever its product or services, can implement ISO 9001. And that's what we mean when we say that what the standard is a generic standard. So what is management system? Management system means what the organization does to manage its processes or activities in order that its product or services meet the organization objectives, such as satisfying the customer requirements and complying to applicable regulations and objectives. Ekene, where is this noise coming from, please? There is one Fidelis that is, if you mute, he unmutes and noise is coming from his background. Like we say, management system means what the organization does to manage its processes or activities in order that its product or services meet the organization objectives. So there is this if the participant continue to disturb the call, then you might need to remove, please. If you mute and you unmute and continue the noise in the background, then you might need to remove so that we won't have any form of distraction.
Okay, I will do that.
Okay. So management system as well, to be really efficient and effective, organization can manage its way of doing things by systemizing it. And when we are talking about systemizing it, you're looking at the requirements of the ISO 9001 standard and try to design your system in such a way that you'll be able to meet the requirements and tenets of the standard. Nothing important is left out. The management system helps you to be sure that everybody understands their role and responsibility in the system. It provides the organization with an international state-of-the-art model to follow, so that whatever you're doing here, if you speak the same language in terms of process implementation, anybody anywhere in the whole world will be able to understand what your system is all about. And that's the essence of management system. It is generic and it speaks one language. Okay? Let me just give a little background of what international organization tries to do, or what standardization is all about. We are in this world, we are all from different backgrounds, different ethnicity, different country, different region, different culture. We see things differently, and the way we do things are all different. So if we allow somebody from Africa to be doing business with somebody maybe from the Asian world, the way we run the business is quite different. So what standardization does is to help us to speak one language with regards to the way we are doing things. When we say table manners, if you hear of international table manners, okay, what does that imply? It tells us that if you come to an international table or dining, there is a particular way you should eat. Because if we allow everybody to eat the way they know or the way their culture allows them, an African man will be an African man and eats in a way he understands. A Chinese man will be a Chinese man and eats in a way he or she understands. A European or an American person will eat the way he or she understands, which might irritate the other person. Okay, so to avoid offending the other person, we decided to say, okay, let's have this food manner or table etiquette so that when we are all on this table and we are eating, nobody will offend the other based on the way we eat, based on the way we do things. Okay, so that's why standardization comes into play. So that there will be a particular way we eat and there will be a particular way we do things. Okay, so Kenneth, this is how to go. Next time, if you're setting the training, ensure that participants are muted and not allowed to even unmute themselves. Okay, so you set the training and the link next time like that so that you won't have the background noise such as this. Okay, so like I was saying, that's what standard is all about. So standard help us to have that common line and common way of doing things. Okay. Large organizations or organizations with complicated processes could not function effectively without a good management system. Okay. Companies in fields such as aerospace, automobiles, defense, or healthcare devices have been operating management system for years. Okay, you ask yourself, how come I get to a hospital? For those hospitals that is implementing a good management system, they're able to get my records, they're able to do things. I know who to meet and when to meet. There is a approach or a way of doing things. It is what management system that is what's operating that organization or business environment. So quality management system is specific for what customer requirements. Is a customer focus related management system. Okay. So ISO 9000 management system standard now make this successful practice available for all organizations. So every organization can implement the standard in its system. I try to highlight about processes, not products. The ISO 9001 management system is what is a process-based standard, not a product-based standard. What do I mean by this? Because it's generic standard and it can, every organization, be it any sector, size, or whatever, can implement it. It makes it a process-based standard and not a product-based standard. A product-based standard is telling you requirements on how you can manufacture a particular product based on, be it industrial or whatever guideline that may be, or specifications that may be. There are product-based standards like NAFDAC will give you or may provide for you and say this water that you're producing must follow this specification or this guideline. Okay, these products must be based on this specification or this guideline. Your vehicle that you're manufacturing must meet this specification or this guideline. the fan or whatever product must meet this specification or this guideline. Those standards or specifications are product-based, but ISO 9001 is not a product-based standard. It's a process-based standard because it's focusing on how you do things. They are process standards. They are not service standards. They are not product standards. They are what? Process standard. They can be used by product manufacturers and service providers, okay, to tailor the way they do things or their internal processes. Process affects final products or services. You will agree with me, okay? ISO 9001 gives the requirement for what the organization must do to manage processes affecting quality of its products and services. This should be clear enough, and this is very important. So what is the certification process? There are two streams of certification process for ISO 9001. In the stream of ISO 9000 standards, the family of ISO 9000 standards is only ISO 9001 that can be what? Certified. The rest of the standards cannot be certified, okay? And the two streams of certification is either organization or individual certification. And for organization, certification is known in some countries as registration. It is only independent external body accredited to IEC 17021 that has audited an organization management system and verified that it conforms to the requirements specified in the standard can issue certificates. For instance, in Nigeria, NINAS is an accreditation body, and they can offer ISO IEC 17021 accreditation for bodies. And if they assess these bodies and say that these bodies are good to go and they meet the requirements of this standard, they can give them accreditation. And 17021 is accreditation for management system related standards, okay, like ISO 9001. So it's not every organization that has the competence to issue certification for ISO 9001. We have various organizations in Nigeria that are certification bodies. What makes them certification bodies is that they've been accredited to ISO IEC 17021, and because of that, they have the power to issue those certificates based on their scope of what? Accreditation. So ISO does not carry out certification and does not issue or approve certificates, okay? You hear some people that might want to deceive you and tell you that our body is ISO accredited. You know, when you say ISO accredited, you have to really explain what you mean by ISO accredited, or that ISO accredited the organization, or that ISO certified the organization. No. ISO does not accredit or neither do they certify anybody, okay? There are ranges of this thing, and there are accreditation bodies that can carry out those accreditations. For individual, only a certification body accredited under ISO IEC 17024. ISO IEC 17024 is for independent personnel certification. So there are organizations that are accredited to that. Those organizations have the competency to issue you certificate and say you are ISO D certified or ISO lead auditor certified, as the case may be. So only such body is authorized to issue certification for ISO 9001 lead auditor or lead implementer, as the case may be. It is important to validate the status of a certification body with the associated accreditation authorities such as NINAS, IAS, ANAC, or UCAS, as the case may be. PECB, of course, is accredited by the International Accreditation Service, IAS, against ISO IEC 17024. And that's what makes the independent personnel certification body an IPC certification body. Okay, so we have others too in Nigeria, and of course the rest of the world that have that competence to do what? Issue this certification. Okay. Is there any question on this angle? If you have any question, you can put it on a chat so we attend to it, because people normally ask questions when it comes to this part. Any quick question on this?
I think you can continue. There are no questions in the
Yes.
comment section.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, the ISO 9000 family. ISO 9000 is the standard for quality management system. It is the latest improved version of the standard. Before ISO 9001 2015, there was ISO 9001 2008, the previous edition. The latest version is 2015 version. It is the only standard in the ISO 9000 family that can be used for certification. The ISO 9000 is for vocabulary, okay? Terms and definition for this standard for the ISO 9000. So those standards, you cannot certify anybody on ISO 9000. Sometimes you see people make that mistake, say, is your company ISO 9000 certified? No. ISO 9000, you cannot be certified on ISO 9000, but these are the family of standards. And inside that family of standards, ISO 9001 is the only standard amongst them that can be what certified. And there are 16 other standards in the family that can help an organization on specific aspects, such as performance improvement, auditing, training, etc. So benefits of ISO 9000. International expert consensus on state-of-the-art practice for quality and other related management systems, be it environmental, safety, even inspection and laboratory. Quality management system gives that foundation. If you have a good quality management system in place, it provides your business with that foundation to be able to actually implement any aspect of the international standards that might be relevant to your system. Okay. Common language for dealing with customers and suppliers worldwide. Just like I was trying to explain earlier, what standardization does is that it keeps all of us on a common ground so that we can speak one language with regards to the way we do things. Okay. If you allow everybody, we all have our own way of doing things. But what standardization does is that it provides clarity and confidence on how each and every other person carries their activity. Increases efficiency and effectiveness. Is a model for continual improvement. Organizations that practice quality management system have a way of, longevity and survival, because the standard allows you to create time to check yourself, check the way you do things, and find a way to do what? Improve your system, okay? It's a model for satisfying customers and other stakeholders. As we go through to the tenets of the standards, you'll see how and you'll see why. It builds quality into products and services from design onward. If your processes are standardized and there's clarity and the way you do things, you'll be very much assured that your products and services, okay, should have that necessary confidence and quality demands. Integrate with global economy. If your activities are, of course, internationally recognized, it automatically brings you into what? Into the global, or the door of the global economy. Sustainable businesses, because we are continually improving, monitoring your risk, the chances of business sustainability is quite high for organizations that are genuinely implementing ISO 9001. Unifying base for industry sectors. Qualified suppliers for global supply chain. If you follow the requirements of the standard, it helps you to do what? Manage your suppliers better. Technical support for regulations. When you identify and understand the needs of your interested parties, you agree with me that compliance level will increase. Transfer of good practice to developing countries. Just like we are saying, it helps us to strengthen the way we do things to strengthen our processes and strengthen our approach to work. It's two for new economic players and regional integration. And just like we are having today, it's becoming mandatory. If for those who are familiar with NCDMB, it's becoming mandatory for organizations to obtain ISO 9001 certification before they will be issued their NCEC. NCEC, Nigerian Content Equipment Certificate, is now a mandatory requirement. Imagine when that goes across board for certain level of certification in the country. Imagine when ECOWAS adopt the same for certain level of certification in the industry. Kenya, as far back as 2010 or thereabouts, made it mandatory for government agencies to have ISO 9001 certification or ISO 22001 certification. And just like that, depending on the sector or the business angle that the agencies are managing. And it helps a whole lot, to strengthen the agencies in Kenya then. Maybe we can get there someday, but it happens, okay? And when that happens, you agree with me, it can form some level of regional integration because you are now being mandated to put your processes and your system in order before you do business at certain level. So quality management system is growing every day, especially in the developing countries like ours, so that we can at least even get to have that discipline on how we carry out our day-to-day business activities. So ISO 9001 revision history. First, it was ISO 9001 1987, which based purely on procedures, SOP. ISO 9000 1994 came into place and focused on preventive action. 2000, process approach and PDCA cycle was duly introduced. The same thing with 2008, of course, an improvement to that. Then ISO 9001 2015 paid keen attention to risk and opportunities. So this is the revision history of the ISO 9001 2015 standard. So let's look at principles of quality management system. Okay, there is always principle guiding every aspect of our life. And for quality management system, these are the key 7 principles. One is customer focus. I've tried to explain that the quality management system is purely a customer focus related standard. Okay, it helps you to understand your customer. It helps you understand their needs. It provides guidelines on reviewing their requirements and for you to meet and assess your performance with your customer. So it's a customer focus related standard. And that's number 1 principle. So leadership is key. The management system now encourages leadership in a system, not just management rep, but total leadership. And that has to start from the top management of organization, ensuring there is a good policy in place, ensuring that roles and responsibilities are clearly defined, take out ownership of the system. So leadership is key. You agree with me, if there is no clear leadership, and nothing really survives. Engagement of people. You have to assign adequate roles and responsibility, and need to bring all the parties or interested parties on board in your management system. Okay? In that case, there will be better collaboration, there will be better cooperation, and there will be better understanding. If people don't understand what you're doing, where you're going, or how you're achieving what you're achieving, enthusiasm drops. And when it drops, they don't feel attached, or they don't take ownership of their processes. But when they are fully engaged right from onset, it helps a lot in building a strong quality management system. It encourages process approach to management, okay? Process approach tells you that there has to be an input before output. You don't just jump and start doing things. There has to be a process, the way you do things. Improvement, it encourages improvement. If you stop growing, you die. Okay, so you must always find a way to improve. The business environment is quite dynamic. The demands for how will I put it, ICT these days is not as it was in the back days. The demand for information security now, as it is today, is not as it were. So you must always continue to do things to ensure that your customers are happy. Okay, we are talking about Industry 4.0 today, with key elements of Internet of Things happening here and there. Robotics, news of robotics happening here or there, and quite a number of all the Industry 4.0 tools that are out there today and trying to steal jobs from normal people. Okay, so you must always be at your best to continue to improve your system. Evidence-based decision making. You don't just make decision based on vague analysis. You must get your data right, and when you get your data right, you'll be able to process your data. And when you process your data, you get the right information to make the best decision. Okay. Relationship management. First, if you don't understand your stakeholders, you don't understand your business environment, you don't know who your regulators are, you don't know who your community are, or interested parties, you won't be able to manage your relationship. So what quality management system does is that it helps you to define these stakeholders accurately, and you should be able to, find the best way to relate with those people internally and externally, for effective quality management system. So these are the 7 key principles of a quality management system. Okay. So before we go to the next section, which is introducing the clauses of ISO 9001, I think we might need to take a be it 5 minutes or 2 minutes break. If there are questions, we'll attend to that before we go to the next part of the discussion. So if you have questions, go ahead, ask on what we've discussed so far before we go into the next section. 5 minutes time, we'll go into the next section.
Okay, please, if you have any question, just drop it in the comment section. We'll attend to it. If you have any question, just drop it. Type it in the comment section. Then if you're on YouTube, you can equally drop your questions on YouTube. We'll attend to it.
So if you have any other thing you want to be sharing, you can do that. 5 minutes, we commence again, because we are going to the clauses of ISO 9001 proper. So if you want to take water, please, this time, take your water, take your coffee. Okay, I will start 10:40 sharp. So just gather the questions. When we come back, you can read them out. Then we address it before we progress. 10:40 sharp.
Okay, all right. Please, if you have any questions, just drop it in the comment section. Or if you're on YouTube, also drop it in the comment section so that we can attend to it. Also, some persons are asking if there will be certificates at the end of the training. Yes, there is a certificate at the end of the training, awareness certificate on ISO 9001 2015. So if you are interested at the end of the training, you send a mail, send a request to hr@senglobalservices.com. You send a request for ISO certificates, and then the training manual as well will be forwarded to you. But it's not free, like you asked on them in the comment section. So the details on the certificate and how to go about it will be further detailed after the training.
All right. Trust you are all welcome back. Okay, any question to address before we progress? Mr. Kenneth?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, any question relevant to address?
Yeah, someone asked, what are the elements of the QMS? Elements of ISO 9001.
It's important we are careful with terminologies and wordings out there. And when it's element of ISO 9001, you have to be specific. We'll discuss on the principles of ISO 9001. Then the elements you might refer to clauses of ISO 9001, which are what you're seeing on the board, and which are the next line of items we have to discuss in detail. So you can't just say elements of ISO 9001. It must be very clear. Okay, people use words that mean different things. So somebody might say elements of ISO 9001, and the person might be referring to principles of ISO 9001. And another person might use it, and the person is referring to the clauses of ISO 9001. So I don't want to use the word elements. It's not like it's a you won't see it in ISO 9000 definition. You won't see anything like elements of ISO 9001 there. So I wouldn't want to address the clauses as elements. They are just call them the tenets or the clauses of ISO 9001. If you want to use the word elements, it's up to you. I don't know if that's clear enough.
Yeah, that's clear. That's okay. And then we have another question. Say, I want to know if ISO certification for organization is renewable.
Yes, yes. It's practically every year. Every year, the certification body will come and carry out what they call surveillance audits. So the surveillance audit is to be sure that you're still meeting with the element or with the tenets of the clauses. You're still meeting with the requirements of the clauses. So they will send in auditors who will carry out a surveillance audit. And after that, that surveillance audit is normally yearly basis. Then sometimes the certification might expire after 3 years, but they'll be carrying out surveillance audits. Then after 3 years, they will carry out what they call recertification audits. Then they can issue you a new certificate after expiration.
Okay. Someone asked again, how long does it take for an organization to be ISO certified?
It depends. It's not tied down or cast down on stone. So it depends on your level of readiness and preparation. It can take an organization up to 5 years, 10 years to get certified, whereas it can take another organization just 2 months or 1 month or 6 months to get certified. So it's a matter of your level of maturity, system maturity, and readiness. So if you're able to meet the requirements of the standards and you're audited and you're found okay, your certification should be issued by a competent body if you meet all their contractual or requirement as the case may be. So it's not cast on stone. It depends on your maturity and readiness.
Okay, Emmanuel asked, the ISO chart you gave us shows that every 8 years, a new aspect is deliberated on. Is it always renewed or more emphasized at every range of time?
You see the mistake. Is he referencing to the standard itself? The standard is not the certification. I was talking about the certification for organization. If it's the revision of the standard, it depends on the ISO body. ISO ITC 175 is ISO technical committee in charge of the renewal and review or management of the quality management system. So it depends on the technical committee. When there is a need for review process, then they can carry out the review process of the standard itself. It's different from a body, a certified body renewal process. The standard is a document on its own, managed by ISO ITC 175 Technical Committee.
Okay, someone asked, even though ISO 9001 sets the minimum requirement that must be met, it still allows organizations to tailor the QMS to their needs. What are these minimum requirements that must be met?
Minimum requirements that must be met. If you open the standard and go through the standard as we are going to discuss now, when you see shall means mandatory requirements. May, it depends. If you like, you implement. If you don't like, you implement, but it's okay, you implement it as it will help your system. But anywhere you see shall in the standard, anybody that said that they are implementing ISO 9001 2015 must implement those clauses. So any clause where you see shall, if you see organization shall, then you know that is a mandatory requirement. So you can use that to determine the number of minimum requirements that each organization should implement or have in place. Okay, this is not a class to start telling us minimum requirements and all that, but to understand the basis and the foundation. And what's that foundation and basis? In the standard, anywhere you see shall, it means a mandatory requirement, and the organization must implement that clause.
Okay, someone asks, what are the requirements for an individual to be ISO certified?
For an individual to be ISO certified, of course, you should meet the minimum requirement for a particular training, like the lead auditor training. So, which I believe Kene or maybe you must have shared to whoever the entry requirements for training. So, if you pass through the training and pass through the exam and pass the exam, then your certificate will be issued. So, basically, having the relevant training. And for every training, there are some prerequisites for those trainings. So if you meet those prerequisites for those training, you carry out the training and pass the required examination, then your certificate, and you are competent to be issued a certificate.
Okay, someone asked, can NGO be certified?
Yes, every organization can be certified. Irrespective of your nature of business, size, or whatever, you can be certified because it tells us your process and the way you're doing things. It's a process-based standard, so it tells us how you do things and define how you do things to meet your particular objectives and needs. So NGO definitely can be. I will shock you to add that even church can be certified. That's the generic nature of the standard.
Okay, Victor asked, is system approach to management not among the 7 keys to quality management principle?
We have process approach. System approach was before now. They redefined the principles and made it 7 principles, because when you talk of process approach, what is a process? A system is a collection of processes. Okay, it's a collection of processes that make up a system. Okay. So there is no point repeating by saying system approach. Those are the old principle, but the new principle is talking about process approach. because process and system are actually the same thing, because system is just collection of different processes. So
Okay,
when you
that's
say
all for
process
now.
approach, okay. So when you say process approach, you are in other words saying system approach. Okay, so let's go to what we have now. We have the ISO 9001 2015 clauses. We've highlighted some of the key basics. And don't forget, this is an awareness class. So we are just to take us through the standard itself, which is a document. Don't forget, when we say standard, normally is a document. So it's a reference document for those say that they are implementing ISO 9001 2015. So we have to look into the standard or the document to see what it looks like for those that have not had the opportunity, to see what the standard looks like. Okay. So what you're seeing here, I'll use the word table of content in a nutshell or in a primary term. So this is what the table of contents of ISO 9001 document looks like. You have the introduction, you have the scope, you have the normative reference, terms and definition, context of the organization, leadership, planning, support, operations, performance evaluation, and improvement. So clause 0 to 3, nobody is looking into this clause to see how you are implementing them, because they are not the actual requirements of the standard. The actual requirements of the standard starts from clause 4. So from clause 4, you can be audited against to know how you are implementing. Okay? So it's important you understand that, so that maybe tomorrow you are a trained auditor, maybe the audit training you went for didn't highlight that clearly, and you enter an organization and you're asking them, what are your normative references and all those things. Or you try to audit them to know if they are defining their manager as standard, as ISO definition of manager. Or you're asking them to say, your accounting department, why are you using the term accounting department? Why are you not using commercial as the name of your department? That's not what the standard is all about. Terms and definitions is purely specific for the organization. Okay, so far it meets the requirements of the standard. So let's understand that, please. So if you're auditing a system, the major requirement focus is from clause 4 down to clause 10. Like I said, clause 1 is just talking about the scope. It's just talking about, we are looking at the standard itself as a whole. So what it is for and what it encompasses. The scope we're referencing here is the scope of the standard, okay? And it introduces the requirements of the quality management system, which supports the delivery of a product or service through the application of what? Effective and continually improving system. Assuring conformity to customer and applicable legal requirements, whereas enhancing customer satisfaction is just in a nutshell telling us what the standard and what the document is all about. So the normative reference as well, no normative reference per se. The clause is included to maintain clause numbering alignment with other ISO management system standard. And I would like to add that there's what they call high-level structure. You might not understand it, but it exists. Maybe when you do lead auditor, it will be tailored more and you have the high-level structure for all ISO management system standard of this nature is such that the clauses are the same. So if you look at ISO 9001 2015, look at the structure of the clause. If you look at ISO 45001, it is looking exactly like this. If you look at ISO 14001, it's looking exactly like this. And so the other high-level standards, okay? So that structure you're seeing there is called the high-level structure. So let's pay attention to the clause 4. And clause 4, of course, is where the implementation proper starts. And that's where the focus actually majorly lies. So clause 4 is talking about context of the organization. Don't forget what I told you. I told you SHA is mandatory requirements. So anywhere you see SHA in the standard, it is compulsory you have that in place. So clause 4.1 Understanding the organization and its context. It is important that you do what? Understand the organization. And the standards say the organization should determine external and internal issues that are relevant to purpose and strategic direction and that affect our ability to achieve the intended results of the QMS. And you must monitor and review the information about these external and internal issues. So when we say internal and external issues are those ones within the organization that are within the organization's control and power. External issues are outside the organization's control and power. Okay? External issues could be something like regulatory, even technology advancement, even weather condition and all that could be part of external issues. Internal issues should include maybe things like employee welfare and maybe ergonomics related issues and work time and a whole lot. Okay, so the standard asks you to do what? Identifying this issue and see how they are relevant to the progress of your QMS. Just like we've highlighted, external contexts include cultural, social, political, legal, regulatory, financial, etc. Okay, natural and competitive environment, whether international, national, regional, or local, as the case may be. Whereas internal context includes corporate culture, governance, organizational structure, roles and accountability, policies, objectives, and strategies, resources, as the case may be. Okay, so you're expected to identify these requirements, monitor them, track them, and see how they impact your QMS. So 4.2 talks about understanding the needs and expectations of your interested parties. Okay? And who are your interested parties? Interested parties could be internal, at the same time, they can also be what? External. So you should determine the interested parties that are relevant to the QMS. You should determine the related requirements of these interested parties, monitor and review the information about these interested parties and their relevant requirements. Okay, so it is important that we do what? Understand who our interested parties are. If you don't understand, they'll come and sweep you away. Okay, if you neglect them, they'll come and sweep you away. Be it your internal interested party, which are what? Your workers, as the case may be. External could be your regulatory bodies, as the case may be. So that's what clause 4.2 is all about. Clause 4.3 said, determine the scope of the QMS. And what does that mean? You should be able to say, this is the boundary of my QMS. This is the applicability of my QMS. Because if you don't define the scope of your business, you know, here you see every day people register business and put things like a general contractor, you know, and you know that's quite so open and quite big, okay? But then the quality management system is telling us, can you please define the scope of your quality management system? Where does it apply? Does it apply to all the sectors of your business? Does it apply to all the segments of your business? Does it apply to which location of your business, as the case may be? Okay. Your organization should determine the boundaries and applicability of the QMS to establish its scope. The scope must consider the following. They initially identify external and internal issues, okay? The requirements of what your interested parties and the nature of products and services you are offering, okay? All requirements are applicable. If a requirement cannot be applied, it must not affect the ability to provide conforming products and be justified, as the case may be. So it is always important that you do what? Define clearly the scope of your quality management system. Clause 4.4 is talking about quality management system and its processes. So every organization shall establish, implement, maintain, and continue to improve the QMS, including the process needed and their interaction in accordance with the requirements of the international standard. So this is now what is a requirement, okay? So what do we mean by processes? In a nutshell, we can just use an example so that everybody understands. If you come to a business, Maybe there is an accounting process, there is a HR process, there is engineering process, there may be operation as the case may be. So how does these processes interact so that this end service or the end goal meets the requirements of the customer? Okay, so you must do what? Establish, implement, maintain, and continually improve these processes so that you can regularly meet the requirements of both the standard and the what your client as the case may be. So QMS and its processes, just like we've said, inputs, organization shall determine inputs required and outputs expected from QMS processes. You must define the criteria, methods, including measurements and related performance indicators needed to ensure the effectiveness, operation, and control. Assignment of responsibility and authorities for these processes. I must also define the risk and opportunities and plan and implement appropriate action to address them. Okay. So first of all, it's important to do what? Define your processes. What and what do you need to do your business? Which unit should I set up? Which department is necessary? What and what and what? Okay. The functions and the roles and responsibility all make up your what? QMS processes. So clause 5 is leadership. Leadership what? And commitment 5.1. It's expected that all management shall demonstrate leadership and commitment, which with respect to the quality management system by taking accountability of the effectiveness of the QMS, okay, because they have to take ownership, ensuring policy and objectives are compatible with strategic direction, ensuring the quality is communicated, understood, and applied, ensuring integration of the QMS requirement into business processes, promoting awareness of the process approach to management. Okay, so leadership, just like I said before, is a critical principle of quality management system. Okay, and it's a clause on its own. So leadership are also communicating importance of effective quality management system and of conforming to the QMS requirements. The leadership of every business should be able to continually communicate this thing to all the stakeholders in the system. And you should take charge in promoting what? Continual improvement. Of course, the top management of the organization should also ensure that customer requirements and applicable statutory regulatory requirements are determined and met. They should also take charge to ensure that risk and opportunities that can affect conformity of products and services and the ability to enhance customer satisfaction are determined and addressed as well. The focus on consistency providing products and services that meet customers and applicable statutory and regulatory requirements is maintained. So they should also ensure that there is a focus on enhancing customer satisfaction within the system. So clause 5.2 is a critical aspect of quality management system, and that deals on quality policy. It is mandatory. If there is a system, you enter a system and there is no policy. If there is no quality policy, it tells you that there is no direction for the quality management system. So this is critical, and this is always the first thing that we put in place. So top management should establish a quality policy that is appropriate to the purpose of the organization and should be able to provide a framework for setting quality objectives, includes a commitment to satisfy applicable requirements, and includes a commitment to continual improvement of the quality management system. So in your quality management system policy, or quality policy rather, these elements and expression of commitment should be clearly stated. Okay? So quality policy is mandatory and it must be signed by the highest authority in an organization. Okay? If there is a CEO, the project manager should not be the person to sign the quality policy. If there is a CEO, the HR manager should not be the person to sign the quality policy. The highest level of authority in the organization should be the person to sign quality policy. The essence is so that there is a full accountability and there is a full ownership by the leadership of that company. Because this forms a foundational document for every other thing you're doing as far as quality management is concerned. So the quality policy, of course, shall be available as documented information. Don't tell us it's in your head. Okay, we know it, we've said it, we've rehearsed it, but it's not a documented information. We can't see it. We can't see the signature of the endorsed party or whatever. We can't read it. It's not available to be read by people, and we say it's in our head. No, it cannot be in your head. It's not something you imagine. It has to be documented information. It has to be communicated within the organization. The management of the company or leadership don't write it and put it in the cupboard. Everybody in the system should be aware of it. It should be communicated within the system. So it's for you to define the ways you should communicate it, be it the notice board, your website, memos, whatever, however, during training, during meeting, anyhow you want to communicate it is up to you. But what we know is that it has to be communicated, and it should be available to interested parties as appropriate. Okay. 5.3, organizational roles, responsibility, and authorities. So management shall assign the responsibility and authorities for ensuring that the processes are delivering their intended outputs. Reporting on the performance of the quality management system, on opportunities for improvement, and on the need for change or innovation, and especially for reporting to top management. In other words, there has to be clear definition of what roles, responsibilities, and authority within the system. You enter an organization where people are multitasking. Let's get it clear. Sometimes you get to an organization and you see one person having multiple job descriptions. The standard does not say you should not multitask. The standard should not say one person should not have the multiple function, but the standard is saying that whatever the person is doing should be clearly defined. And the person's roles, responsibility, and authority should be clearly defined in the system. Okay? So it's possible to multitask in the system, but let's define it. Issue each and every one person, declare their roles, their responsibility, and define the authorities in the system. So it's important, and it's the leadership of the company that takes this responsibility. So clause 6 is an important clause, and that talks about what? Planning. You agree with me that failure to plan simply means you plan to fail already. Okay, so the standard understands the relevance of planning in everything we do, and that is why it's a clause on its own. So clause 6 of the standards is planning, and 6.1 talks about actions to address risk and opportunity. Okay, so most times this clause confuses a whole lot of people, be it even people that have been in the practice for donkey years. The issue of risk and opportunities, it's been there since 2015, but even up to now, a whole lot of people still find it confusing. But the confusion is on that tone, and was that the risk is what could be beneficial, risk could be a threat, okay, in every system. When we say take risk, it's either the step you're taking is beneficial or it is a threat. So if it is a threat, most times it's a negative threat. If it is what? Beneficial, we term it opportunity. So both opportunity and threat are embedded in risk. So the standard kind of, if I'm to review the next standard, I'll point it out and say, instead of us saying determine risk and opportunities, I'll rather say let's determine what our threats and benefits or opportunities rather. Threats and opportunities should have been determined, because risk is a combination of what? Threats and opportunities. But that's what the standard says. So we are for now permitted to use the terminology in the standard, which is what? Risk and opportunities that need to be addressed to give assurance that the QMS can achieve its intended result. Okay. So you should do what? Define your risk and opportunities clearly, identify them, okay? Prevent or reduce undesired effects, and you should be able to achieve continual improvements when such is being practiced. So action to address risk and opportunities and how to integrate and implement this action into the QMA processes. Evaluate the effectiveness of the actions that you've taken. So every organization is different. Like we all told you that the standard is a process standard. The way you define, you can't expect a medical facility to be defining their business risk the same way maybe a process plant facility or maybe a pharmaceutical company is doing their own. So the risk level is different. So everybody can adopt a particular way to define their risk and opportunities. So the standard is not telling you how, it's just telling you what should be done. Okay, so the approach you take to achieving your result is up to you, and that's what makes it generic, and that's why every sector, business, depending on the size or whatever, can implement the standard. So there are tools for risk assessment. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's up to you to define the tool you want to use to assess your risk, to manage your risk and opportunities as the case may be. So options to or plan to address risk and opportunity could be avoiding the risk, taking risk in order to pursue an opportunity, eliminating the risk source, changing the likelihood or consequences, sharing the risk, or retaining risk by informed decision. So for my colleagues in operational health and safety, of course, we are familiar with HSE way of managing risk. Okay, this one is a little bit on a higher level anyway, because it's not just talking about the threats, it's also talking about what the opportunities and how to address them, because that's how you improve your system as well. Clause 6.2 is talking about quality objectives and planning to achieve them. The organization shall establish quality objectives at relevant functions, levels, and processes. Okay, every process should have its own objectives. You could have a corporate objectives, but it's always better because we are talking about process approach to management. If you are given objective, we set at a corporate level, then we set at process level so that each and every person will have something looking out for to achieve. Okay. And when we are setting objectives, our objective has to be what? Smart objectives. Smart in the sense that it has to be specific, it has to be measurable, it has to be achievable, it has to be realistic, it has to be what? Time-bound. Okay? So the quality objective shall be consistent with the quality policy. It has to be measurable, because if we can't measure the objective, then why are we setting it? Because we need to know when we say, yes, we are achieving it, we are not achieving it, okay? It should take into account applicable requirements. It should be relevant to conformity of product and services and the enhancement of customer satisfaction. The objective has to be monitored. It has to be communicated, and it should be updated as appropriate, okay? So it's for you to define how you update and when you update your objectives. So like I was trying to say, when planning how to achieve quality objective, organizations should determine what to be done. Do you have the necessary resources to achieve that objectives? Okay, it has to be specific, it has to be measurable, it has to be achievable. If you don't have the resources, you cannot achieve the set objectives. Who will be responsible? Okay, when it will be completed, time bound, and how the results will be evaluated, okay, for monitoring. So planning of changes. You agree with me that definitely there will be change, because if we are talking about continual improvement, then there should be room for change. And if there are change to occur in every system, this change has to be planned. If you impose a change on a system, it might have a devastating impact on the entire process or even your stakeholders, as the case may be. So that's why you must plan your changes, okay? So where there is a need for a change to the QMA, this must be done in a planned and systematic manner. So in this case, we are talking about what an organizational change or a management and QMS related change. Okay, it's different from the change that we see in clause 8. Okay, that has to do with change in maybe customer requirements. Okay, which are purely operational based. But this change we are referring to here has to do with what change in the QMS. We have to define the purpose of the change and any potential consequence, the integrity of the QMS, the availability of resources, allocation or reallocation of responsibilities and authorities. Okay. A typical change of this magnitude is maybe when you're introducing a new department, or maybe when you are launching a new product in a system, or you are launching a new service in a system that you want to capture under your quality management system. Okay, so in this case, is a corporate change, is a high level change. So let's look at clause 7. Clause 7 is talking about support processes. The organization shall determine and provide the resources needed for the establishment, implementation, maintenance, and continual improvement of the QMS. ISO 9023 will include additional requirements, people, infrastructure, process environment, monitoring and measuring resources, and of course, organizational knowledge. So you must define the resources. You agree with me, if you don't have the required resources, you won't be able to deliver your tasks effectively. One of the major problems we are having in this part of the world is, you say, we call them portfolio companies. They have a name, and of course, they have maybe documents here and there, but there are no resources or people or infrastructure. It's as if they don't exist, to carry out a typical activities. And such organization, you will agree with me that the risk level of engaging with them is high. Management system understands that problem, and that's why they say you should be able to define the resources you need to carry out your activity. Okay, so resources is critical. It could be people, infrastructure, your process environment, your monitoring and measuring resources, and of course, your organizational knowledge. So organizational knowledge, when addressing changing needs and trends, the organization shall consider its current knowledge and determine how to acquire or access the necessary additional knowledge. This can include information such as intellectual property and lessons learned. So it's important to document your organizational knowledge. Most times, most systems don't actually document the organizational knowledge, but it's very, very important that this happens, okay? When you're doing your brainstorming exercise, when there is a new standard, new this thing, and your system is following up, so these changes, lesson learned, there are incident investigation were carried out, and there were lessons learned. This should be all documented because they all form part of your organizational knowledge. And these are the tools you need for what? To continually improve your quality management system. So competence is critical in quality management system for support processes. This is where our HR people, this is a clause that actually handles them critically as far as quality management system concerned. So when we are talking about competence, the organization demands that, the standard demands that organization shall determine the necessary competence of person doing work under its control that affect its quality performance, okay? And when we are talking about competence, we are talking about the skill level of the individual. We are talking about the knowledge level of the individual, the ability of the individual to perform, the training level of the individual, and the experience level of the individual. So these are the components of a competence or what you can use to define the competence level of an individual. The person's skill, knowledge, ability, training, and level of experience, okay? So organizations shall ensure that these persons are competent on the basis of appropriate education, training, or experience, okay? So you can add as well skill, knowledge, ability, training, and experience. Where applicable, take action to acquire the necessary competence and evaluate the effectiveness of the actions taken. Okay. Retain appropriate documented information as evidence of competence. So in an organizational system, you won't say you have this and when you cannot provide evidence of such qualification. So when your organization requesting for your qualification, your educational qualification, professional qualification, they are not just asking it because they love to ask or because they have so much airtime or data to write email or call you. No, most time it's being asked because it's a requirement, and the team handling that process should be able to provide this evidence when asked upon. Okay, otherwise we'll all be anyhow, we'll all be doing things where we like. So always bear with your organization. If you're an organization, always demand to have the proof of qualification from your employees, as the case may be. So retain appropriate document information as evidence of commitment. The standard did not say you may, it says you shall. So it's mandatory requirement. So if you go to school, get your qualification ready. Okay. If you have a certificate you've abandoned, go back and kickstart the process, get your qualification. If you spend time to pass through any process, try and get the certification as evidence of what? Competence. So awareness is another critical level of clause. If you don't tell them, don't blame them. If you don't train them, don't blame them. So most times we focus on blame game. We don't pay attention to creating the necessary awareness, okay? So even this training we are doing today is an awareness training. It's even a clause on its own on the standard that organizations should carry out awareness about their quality management system. So person doing work under organization's control shall be aware of the policy and relevant objectives. Like I told us before, the leadership of the company don't write objectives or policy and throw it away. This has to be what communicated, and to communicate that awareness is part of it. They should be aware of their contribution to the effectiveness of the QMS, including the benefits of improved quality performance. Remember, we talked about engagement of people, okay? So when you engage people, you should tell them why they are in that organization or why their job matters. In that case, they can take ownership of what they do. Aware of the implication of not conforming with the QMS requirement. If you fail, we all fail. And this is how you can fail. And this is why you should not fail. Okay? So it's always good we communicate this thing to what our personnel. So it's a mandatory requirement that we do that. So communication is key in every system. So the standard understands that, and that's why it's a clause on it. So clause 7.4 talked about what? Communication. These are all support processes, okay? The organization should determine the internal and external communication relevant to QMS, including on what it to communicate, when to communicate, with whom to communicate, and how to communicate. So what do we mean by that? You must define the way you communicate, okay? Your internal communication process and your external communication process. It's not everybody in the system that is allowed to talk to customer. Maybe it's not everybody in the system that is allowed to interface with the regulatory bodies or the community or whatever. So whichever is the case in your own system, it's always important to do what? To define it clearly, okay? So documented information is a critical aspect of the clause 7 as well. And when we're talking about documented information, we are talking about documents that you can retain, okay? And documents that you can maintain. So documents need to be maintained as documented information. Records need to be retained as documented information. So what do we mean by documents here? We mean by documents, every document is a record, or every record is a document, but every document is not a record. Your degree certificate is a record. It's also what? A document, but you cannot change it. You cannot maintain it. So what do? You retain such information. Reports of your activity carried out is a record. You don't continue to change that report because the activity did not change on its own. So you're reporting what will happen. So it's a retained documented information. Maintained documented information is what I like to call live documents. Those are documents that when we need something, we can run to them and change them. Something like your quality policy. If there is a need to change in your, there is a change in your system and you think it will affect your quality program and you want to review your quality policy, you can attend to such documents, okay, like your quality policy. Procedures tell us how we do things. So these are live documents. So those documents that are subject to review, okay, are what we term documents in this content. Records are those documents that are not subject to review. But know that all records are documents, but all documented information are not records. So understand that, as many people confuse retain and maintain documented information. Operational planning and control. This is clause 8. Clause 8 in all the standards, 14,001, 45,001, 9,001, this is where the major changes lie. All the other clauses are similar and identical. But clause 8, of course, the sub-clauses are similar, but then the title and content are not the same with any other standard, because this clause is specific to the what? To the particular discipline of the standard. Okay? So 8.1 is operational planning and control. Plan, implement, and control the process needed to meet requirements for the provision of products and services, and to implement the action determined in 6.1. 6.1, we are talking about what? Risk and opportunities, okay? So you should be able to plan and control what? All the processes that you need to do what? Achieve your end results. So you should do that by what? Determine requirements for product and services. You should be able to do what? If a client give you a request, so what are the requirements for this request, products and services? You should be able to establish criteria for the processes and acceptance criteria. You should be able to determine the resources needed to achieve your results. Implement the control of your processes, and you should be able to retain documented information for all activities carried out. So 8.2 is determination of requirements for products and services, okay? And the subclause is 8.2.1, which is talking about customer communication. Of course, you agree with me, customer communication is an external word, communication. So you should be able to establish the process for communicating with customers in relation to information relating to products and services, inquiries, contracts, or other handling, including changes, obtaining customer reviews and perception, including customer complaint. So handling or treatment of customer property as may be applicable, special requirement for contingency actions when relevant. So you see why quality management system is very, very brilliant and very, very important, because it helps you to do what? Know your customer in a short term, in a summary. If you know your customer, you know how to relate to your customer, and you manage your customer communication life cycle, okay? So determination of requirements is another important subclause. So process to determine the requirement for product and services to be offered to potential customer, okay? You should ensure the organization has the ability to meet the defined requirements and substantiate the claims for the products and services it offers. The essence of determining requirements is of any services or requests is you should be able to know if you can handle this or not. If you take all the jobs that you cannot handle, at the end, it will be a total mess. But when you're able to review your requirements and you know that your processes and system and resources can be able to deliver those requirements, then you pursue it with your whole heart, okay? So design and development of products and services. This is typical for organizations that might have design requirements in the activity. So if you're carrying out design of any nature, then this clause definitely is your baby, okay? So where the detailed requirement of organization, products, and services are not already established or not defined by the customer or by other interested parties such that they are adequate for subsequent production or service provision, the organization shall establish, implement, and maintain a design and development process. It's important, okay? So the organization will also apply the requirement given in 8.5, as we are to see, to the development of process for production and service provision. So design process is critical, okay? For any organization that is do what, you're carrying out any design of any such, you must implement this clause of the standard. Clause 8.4 is talking about control of externally provided products and services, okay? So in the term that we all know is, we know vendors, subcontractors, suppliers. So this clause helps you to manage your external service providers, okay? And you should ensure that external provided processes, product, and services conform to specified requirements, apply the specified requirements for the control of externally provided products and services, okay? When products and services are provided by external providers for incorporation into the organization's own products and services, when products and services are provided directly to the customer by external providers on behalf of the organization, a process or part of process is provided by an external provider as a result of decision by the organization to outsource a process or function. So if there is any form of outsourcing, maybe the person's product is going direct to your customer, or they are servicing you, as the case may be, this clause 8.4 specify on how to do what, manage critical activities or process-related activities to be able to manage and control your external service providers. So 8.5 talks about production and service provision. So organizations should implement control conditions for product and service provisions, including delivery and post-delivery activities. So when we talk about delivery and post-delivery activities, we may refer to things like definition of the product and service characteristics, which has to be documented, activities to be performed and results to be achieved, okay? Monitoring and measurement activities, use and control of suitable infrastructure and process environment, availability and use of suitable monitoring and measuring resources, competence and where applicable required qualification of persons, validation and periodic validation of special processes, formal release of product and services, delivery and post-delivery activities. So these things are critical, and you must control all these things so that for every product that you deliver or for every service that you deliver, we should be able to refer to your system and see evidence of compliance to these tenets of this clause. So identification and traceability is also important, for post-delivery and post-delivery activities. Like I said last time during the training section, I referred to how organizations do recalls of failed products. We've seen vehicle manufacturers of this world announcing a recall of a particular brand or a particular make of their products. Maybe because there is a safety concern or quality, as the case may be, and they say there is a recall of batch of products. So how do they achieve that? And how are they able to identify those products that didn't meet those requirements? It is by what identification and traceability, so that they can actually point and say, the product of so batch made so period has also issues and require recall. So if they don't have this requirement of process in place, then they won't even be able to know the actual products that fail that requirement, and it will just be there in the market. So identification and traceability is critical okay, for every services that you're providing. And it's critical, even more critical for products, okay? So all property belonging to customer, you should be able to manage them very well. If I'm a customer and I give you my product, like it could even be my material, my document, it could even be anything tangible or not tangible. I expect you to preserve and protect those property, okay? So you don't just handle customer property anyhow. Post-delivery activities, you can consider things like risks associated with the product and service, just like I've explained. Natural use and intended lifetime, customer feedback, statutory and regulatory requirements. Okay, you should also be able to control of changes. When there is changes in the system, maybe a requirement, customers say we want a yellow product. Tomorrow they now say, no, let's make it green. So that change should be documented and should be properly controlled. Okay, it is a project or operational specific and maybe not organizational related change like we highlighted in the previous clause. So you must review and control unplanned changes that are essential for product or service provisions to ensure continuing conformity. So clause 8.6 talks about release of products and services to customers. So the organization must monitor and measure the characteristics of the products to verify that products requirements have been met and evidence of conformity with the acceptance criteria must be maintained. Okay? Retained documented information must indicate the persons authorizing the release of products for delivery to the customer. 8.7 talks about control of non-conforming process outputs, products, and services. So when a product or services is not conforming to requirements, what should you do? There should be some level of control process that you put in place to ensure that details of person or authority that made the decision regarding dealing with the non-conformity is determined. The action you take to address the non-conformity is determined, okay? So it's important to set up a process in place for control of non-conforming process, output, products, and services as the case may be, okay? When we say non-conforming, it means it is not meeting up with what specified criteria or requirements, maybe by the customer or maybe by you, the organization or service provider. So that's it for clause 8. We're looking at clause 9. Clause 9 is talking about performance evaluation. If you don't check what you do, then the day you will fall like, it's as if you're falling from the sky. But the person or a system that checks what it does sees a loophole and closes it. You see a gap and you close it. And when you continue to do that, you find yourself continually improving your system. So it's important that clause 9.1, monitoring and measurement analysis and evaluation is what put in place in the system. So what should be monitored? What should be measured? How do you analyze? And how do you evaluate? It is important to determine what needs to be monitored and measured in a system. The method for monitoring, measuring, analysis, and evaluation is applicable to ensure wide results. You should define when the monitoring and measurement shall be performed. Okay? And also when the result from monitoring and measurement shall be analyzed and evaluated. Remember, we talked about evidence-based decision-making as part of what the principles of quality management system. So when you monitor, when you measure, you get the required information or data. So when you process this data, it becomes information, okay? So when you process or analyze this information, that's when you can get what activities and you effectively evaluate your performance. And it is important as you're doing this, you are documenting appropriately. So one of the tools for performance evaluation is internal audits, okay? So internal audit is critical for ISO 9001 and it's critical for every management system. And internal audits have always been a key element of ISO 9001 in helping to assess the effectiveness of the quality management system. An audit program needs to be established to ensure that all processes are audited at the required frequency, the focus being on those most critical to the business. And to ensure that internal audits are consistent and thorough, a clear objective and scope should be defined for each audit. So before an audit, there is an audit plan, there's an audit schedule that has to be developed and communicated to all the interested parties as the case may be. So internal audit is a very strong and powerful tool for what performance evaluation in every system. Another tool we need for performance evaluation is management review. If you carry out your internal audit and you get all your results, there has to be a review process, okay, based on the information that you gathered through your evaluation process. And on this table, we all discuss about the QMS, and we all look at all the data and information that we generated. So we can make a decision based on what objective evidence that are tendered. So management review now includes requirement to consider changes in external and internal issues that are relevant to the QMS and strategic direction, information on the quality performance, including trends and indicators for monitoring and measuring results, issues concerning external providers and other related relevant interested parties. We should also highlight issues talking about adequacy of resources, effective fashion taken to address risk and opportunities. If you are saying you're controlling your risk and opportunities and you're putting actions in place, you should review those actions in place to know if they are even effective or not. So during my main review process, a whole lot to discuss and all gears towards what? Evaluating the performance of the system. So the last but not the least is the clause 10, which is talking about improvements. Improvement in management system is said to be what? Continual. Implement action to meet customer requirements and enhance customer satisfaction by what? Improving processes to prevent non-conformities. Okay? Improving products and services to meet known and predicted requirements. Improving quality management system results. So what we are trying to highlight is that when we are talking about improvement in management system, it's not just continual improvement alone. If there is a breakthrough improvement, innovation, transformation, full-time change, as far as you're improving, as far as the system is growing, as far as you're making your customer happier, they are all the nature of improvements the management system welcomes. So 10.2 is talking about non-conformity and corrective action. So when a non-conformity occurs, the organization shall react to the non-conformity and as applicable. So when things go wrong, when somebody is not meeting the requirement, when the system is failing, it's expected that the organization should react. If you don't react, one happens, the second one happens, the tendency that a bigger one that will happen that will collapse the system is there. But if you keep addressing your non-conformity as they rise, it helps you to be on your toe and to continually improve your system. And it's expected that you take actions to control and correct the non-conformity and deal with the consequence. You should evaluate the need for action to eliminate the cause of the non-conformity in order that it does not reoccur or occur elsewhere. By reviewing the non-conformity, determining the causes of the non-conformity, and determining if similar non-conformity exists or could potentially occur. Implement any action needed, review the effectiveness of any corrective action taken, and make changes to the quality management system if necessary. So clause 10.3 is talking about continual improvement. And we are expected to consider outputs of analysis and evaluation and outputs from management review to identify areas of underperformance or opportunities for improvement. And you should select and utilize applicable tools and methodologies for investigation of the causes of underperformance and for supporting continual improvement. So there are quite a number of tools out there. The management system is not listing anyone for you, but that one that is effective and good for you, you can do it for what? For your improvement analysis programs. So that's it. And I think we have a question and action or question and answer time. Thank you for listening, and just feel free, ask your questions. Let's learn more. We have should be ending by 12 or maximum 12:10. So we have quite a number of minutes to attend to our questions. Thank you. Okay, let's hear if there are other questions.
All right, thanks so much. We have questions. We have series of questions here. And then please, if you have questions, you can just raise up your hand and we'll enable you to speak. So from the comment section, I have some questions, and one asked, what resources are needed for monitoring and measuring the QMS?
Okay, beautiful. Resources needed for monitoring. First of all, you should have the competent personnel in place. You should have the trained QC, quality control personnel or supervisors in place. And depending on the nature of services you're offering, okay, there should be some equipment you might need. If you're a laboratory, if you're offering a laboratory services, maybe equipment for your temperature monitoring, the calibration equipment and all that should be in place. Then, of course, all the equipment for monitoring of such should be calibrated, okay? So any equipment you're using for your activities, ensure there are calibration process in place for those equipment. Because if you use the equipment that are out of calibration for monitoring and measuring, then you might have, a negative result, and that will affect the end products which you deliver to your customer, and that's not what you want. So it's important, depending on your nature of your services, you can have calibrated equipment in place for your monitoring and measuring activities. Then, of course, it's always important, let's remember competent personnel that will man our quality control activities.
Okay. Another asked, what are the likely job opportunities for an ISO 9001 certified individual?
Okay, beautiful. ISO 9001 certified individual, in a training section like this, I always like to understand from people, why are you in this training? Sometimes people go into training with all motivation, thinking that after a month or two, they will get a job. And when they don't get a job, they are demoralized. And when they are demoralized, they abandon the training, even abandon whatever they learned. So first of all, passion is key, okay? So if you look at passion and look at the trend in the industry, research a lot, read a lot. If you have somebody you are interested in the person's career, read about the person, read about the qualification, and read about the person's job description and all that. Just to give yourself an overview of the nature of discipline and line of career paths you want to follow. Then that will inform you more on the nature of training that you have to do. So passion is first, and it's not a mandatory that immediately you finish a training or ISO 9001 certification training. There are implementer training and there are lead auditor training. A lead auditor can be offering auditing services. If you're lucky and you follow the steps, you can be auditing for certification bodies. You can even be an independent auditor, okay, offering internal audit programs for organization and all that as an external party, helping organization with their internal audit. So it can also be, basically auditing skills it will equip you with. An implementer program helps you to know how to run and use the management system to set up, a system within an organization. So whichever is the case is possible, it can fetch you a role as a quality assurance or quality manager or quality supervisor, as the case may be. But when you go deeper into a particular sector, there could be some other quality related certification that the industry might be requiring. So it's a question of you trying to define your career goal and know the angle you want to follow. But it's an interesting career path because every business you enter, there is an element of quality management system. Even if it's not there at all, if you have the understanding, you can help the business, to grow in what they do. So it's a very important and excellent certification, but then let your passion guide you. A certified auditor can be an independent auditor. It can work for organization-based certification or any like. You can work as an internal auditor for organizations. You can also work in the quality person for organization and all that, but then you need to learn the discipline of that industry proper so that you'll be balanced in what you do, okay? So don't just learn it without the focus. If you're going for certification, have a program in place and have your own goal and view and vision on what you want to do as an individual. Kenneth?
Yeah, someone asked, is monitoring and measuring performance the same as leading and lagging indicators to an organization's objectives?
Monitoring and measuring performance. When you say monitoring and measuring performance, the language just as it is quite very literal and is clear. Okay. So when you set your objectives, you can monitor your objectives and you can monitor your performance of your objectives. Okay. And when you're doing your work, you can monitor your work and monitor the performance of the work and if it's meeting the requirements of the work that is set to do. Okay. So when you're talking about leading and lagging objectives, when you're talking about leading objectives, they are talking about those objectives that we need to implement or achieve for good to happen. The lagging objectives has to be, we are looking at the record of how far did we fail, okay? But leading objective is talking about preventive, things to do so that, or things we are doing, something like training, number of training we want to do, number of meeting we want to do, a number of inspection program we are carrying out, a number of audits we want to do. So these are all leading indicators. But lagging indicator is talking about how many accidents happen, okay? How many fatalities happen? How many rejected products happen? So one is recording the negative, how many negative, and maybe that's where the goal zero comes into play, okay? But the leading indicator is talking about the positivity, the things you want to do so that negatives will not happen. Okay, so how you monitor these whole activities is all a different ballgame altogether. I don't know if I'm able to attempt the present question, but I don't need that to provide a clarity so that we don't miss these terminologies up so much.
Okay, one asked, when do we apply gap analysis in our performance?
Okay, beautiful. I think I like that question. When you're talking about gap analysis is always important when you're introducing a new management system, or maybe when you're improving your management system. So you can call up with your team, and there are tools for gap analysis. I don't like mentioning tools or what do I call it, softwares and all that, because if you look at the management system, it doesn't mention any. So it's left for organization to define what they need. So there are tools you can use to define your gap analysis and do all that. So gap analysis can come at the beginning when you want to set up your system. So you look at the existing standard, you look at the existing structure in your organization and look at what the standard requirements are. So you compare your system clause by clause with those requirements of the standard, and you know what you have and what you don't have. The same thing applies maybe when you're improving your quality management system and you want to know if you are introduced this thing, will I meet all with the requirements of the standard? So you set the standard one side and you set your existing structure one side, and you compare and contrast and know where the gap lies. Then you can start to do what's closing those gaps. And when you're doing that, you find yourself improving and meeting the requirements of the standard. So it's always good at the beginning of setting up a quality management system, or when there is a need for some improvement programs in an existing management system.
Okay, someone asked, how much knowledge will QMS communicate to internal issues to avoid internal breakdown of the company?
Oh, beautiful. That's what they call corporate culture. Okay. So if that's why leadership is critical. So any leadership that is genuinely implementing quality management system, the quality management system understands these things and understand that this happens. Okay. In a system, if the culture is not okay, if there are so many complaints internally, and the management of the company keeps neglecting, okay, or maybe the management of the company is setting a clear objectives or setting a clear direction, and the workers are not following, it can cause a breakdown of a system. So work management system helps both organizations at the long run to understand if the employees are following the organizational culture, policy and progress and mission and vision. If the employees are not following it, they can sit back and say, why? Is it that the people don't meet the culture we need, or they don't meet the kind of competence we need? Do we look elsewhere? It's also left for the organization or the employees to say, this organization, are they moving in the direction I want to go in life? Do they help me in the long run? So it helps everybody to set up a clear line of direction and purpose. Okay, so that's why the clause talked about understand the needs and the expectations of interested parties. Okay, you know their needs and you know their expectations. So most times we focus so much on employees and forget that the organization itself is an interested party. So personally, if I'm defining interest or identifying interested parties for every, or the needs and expectations of every interested party, I look at the needs of the employees and also the needs of the leadership of the company. Sometimes they are different, but we must identify them and find where we need to compromise and move the company forward. I don't know if you understand, and it's an important aspect because culture kills organization faster than any other thing. And the standard
Okay.
and the standards.
Okay, someone asked, does ISO 9001-2015 have any professional qualifications in an industry? For example, for HSE qualifications in oil and gas industry?
I try to understand what it means specific ISO 9001 for industry related. No,
Yes,
I told you it's a
think so.
generic standard. It is a generic standard. It can be certified lead auditor, internal auditor, lead implementer, and the rest, okay? As a 9001, it is generic. Each industry has a specific standard. ISO IEC 17020 is a quality management for inspection services. ISO IEC 17025 is for laboratory services. The same way there are for aviation, the same way they are for medicals, the same way they are for even we have information ISO 27001. Okay, we have all these ISOs, several ISOs that are specific for products, for services, as I explained before. But ISO 9001 is generic. It is a process-based standard. So it helps you to understand how processes work. So you can now use the knowledge of those specific standards and put it in the context of ISO 9001, and you have a wonderful result. So most times, people who are consultancy in this ISO 9001, social implementation and certification, where they get it wrong most times is that they assume that every industry is the same. Maybe you did your first job in a waste company, waste management company, and the next job you have is in a maybe food industry or similar or a different organization altogether, and you find it difficult to narrow down the requirements of this standard specific to that industry. So you just end up dumping a similar process you created for an organization to another organization, and they might have conflict implementing it because it's not specific to what they do. Okay, so my quality management system is generic, and that's why I'm careful not to list softwares or list processes or activities that are specific during the course of this presentation, so that you don't have a mindset, and unlearning becomes difficult when you meet a different thing tomorrow.
Okay, someone asked, how can the internal audit help assess the effectiveness of QMS?
It's important and it helps a lot, okay? So how does it help? When you're auditing a system or a process, we're based on and your criteria is ISO 9001, you are seeing the gaps, okay? So sometimes part of the ways to even identify gaps is to use your internal audit. So when you're seeing the gaps in the system, you're seeing where your weaknesses are, you're seeing where your strengths are, you're seeing where opportunities and threats are. So when you see all those things, what do? You start closing them gap. And when you're closing them gap, you're automatically improving your system. So definitely internal audit is a helpful tool in improving management system.
Okay, someone asked, in dealing with the consequences, is there any QMS method in handling that?
In dealing what?
In dealing with the consequences.
In the consequence, which consequences? Of not performing or consequence of not doing what should be done?
I think so.
Then what's the other question? If there is what?
Whether there's any QMS method in handling that? Like
yes, there's
correctional.
always yes. Now that the clause is there. We talked about control of non-control of non-conformity. So that's a clause that handles that. Okay. So you define what these non-conformities are, and you put corrective actions in place. Okay. So it's basically the clause handling that is the control of non-conformity.
Okay, I think we are done with the questions.
Okay.
We are done with the questions here.
Okay.
And then someone asked, I don't know if this question is not relevant. Say, what are the requirements of ISO?
The requirements of ISO. I think the requirements of ISO is just what we've been listing for the past 45 minutes. Well, when you say requirement of ISO, it's too vague and too broad. ISO is a body. ISO is not a standard. So you say requirement of ISO what? So you have to narrow it down to a particular standard. So if you're talking about a particular standard, that's the document, which is a requirement. So ISO 9001 2015 is what? Requirement for quality management system. The document as a whole is a requirement for quality management system. So it is not, at least someone who has passed through awareness section like this should not go and ask people what is ISO requirement. So narrow it down and say ISO 9001 requirement, ISO 14001 requirement, ISO 45001 requirement, so that it will be specific and you're sounding like at least a professional. Then the requirement is purely the standard, which is the document. So everything written in that document is a requirement. Okay, and don't forget, we say that clause 4 downwards is the major reference for assessing any organization.
All right, thanks so much. Let me check. Okay. One asked, how regular should a company carry out internal audits to continue to remain conformed?
Yeah, if you look at the standard is always very careful. It did not tell you how many times, but it said that you should be carrying out what regular, at least, not just regular, but it should be routine. Okay, at intervals. That's the word. So you can define based on the level of your risk in the system. You might not be auditing a process to WISE, but a particular process needs to be audited to WISE. So look at the level of the risk and look at the level of threats or the level of the impact that process is to the system or the QMS in general, and know how often you can. And of course, look at the maturity of the management system. The more often you audit in the beginning, the better. When you're fully matured, it's no longer important to carry out regular audits. But in the beginning, when you want to strengthen a process, it is important you carry out regular audits. But at interval, Okay. To bring it home, you can do once a year, twice a year, or even just define, what your intervals are. Nobody is penalizing anybody, but at least it's recommended you carry out one a year, at least. But the standard is trying to be careful not to streamline anybody.
Okay, someone asked, is there any benefit of the awareness training certificate to an individual?
There's always a benefit. It's a knowledge one. It's an awareness. It's more like a foundational course. Okay, even though this one we are running it for free at this time. It's if you check foundational course for QMS and awareness training for QMS, I'm sure you'll find the cost. So organization-wise can offer this, and people who will grab, and those that will not grab will grab. So it's a knowledge sharing. It's important. So it's all about knowledge and information. So it's a foundational course, and when you have it, it makes your transition to lead auditor easy, because you can easily pass, having understood the requirements and the structure of the standard and what it's all about. So your passing of the lead auditor becomes easier. And some other training program might make it a prerequisite foundational course for lead auditor. So it's more of a prerequisite if you don't have experience at all in quality management system or any industrial experience at all. So of course, it's a foundational training, and it's important.
All right. Gabriel asked, ISO 45001 talks about HSE management system. Does it have any connection to ISO 9001?
So it does not. ISO 45001 does not talk of HSE management system. It talks of occupational health and safety. HSE is health, safety, and environment. Okay. So the standard that talks about the environment is ISO 14001. So 45001 talks about occupational health and safety only, and not HSE. Okay. That's two disciplines when you say HSE. So yes, there is no link per se. It's a standard on its own, and it's the same high-level structure that ISO 9001 has that it has. Okay, so they are independent standards. I'm talking about two different things, but of course they are similar. So the only thing is that the two standards can be integrated. Okay, one organization can implement both standards and get certified in both standards, because they are actually dependent standard, but can be integrated.
All right, thanks so much. We don't have
questions anymore. You can close there. Thank you all for your time, and just like I was trying to say, understand that quality is beautiful, and among all the whole standard is one of the most balanced, and that it can open your eyes to learn every other standard. So if you're interested, and don't stop, continue to improve your professionalism, continue to improve your career, get knowledge, okay? But passion is key. Ask questions where relevant, and just continue to improve. It's a nice program, and thank you all for being part of it. I'm seeing we had about 50 to 60 people, and we still have at least close to that at the end of the class. So it's a good one, and I appreciate you all. So I can over to you. Huh?
All right, thanks so much. Okay, so I have three categories of questions here. Some persons are asking about the certificates, the awareness training certificates. Yes, it's available, and it should be issued on request. So if you want to get the certificate for this training, you send a mail to HR at Ascent Global Service. I'm going to drop it in the comment section. I'll equally drop my phone number. Some other persons were equally requesting for my phone number. And then some persons requested for training material or training manual. Yes, it's going to be forwarded to your email addresses. If you don't have if you don't fill the form we sent in the WhatsApp group, please fill that form and then send a request for the certificate and the training manual. It will be forwarded to your email. And then there is a fee to that. The cost for the certificate is 10,000 naira. I'm going to drop it in the comment section. And then the phone number and the email address, you will send your request to. And then some other persons asked if they can proceed with lead auditor training or lead implementer. Yes, you can proceed with the training. If you want to, you just send a request to hr@senglobalservices.com or call any of our lines or equally message us on WhatsApp. We have trainings for both ISO 9001, ISO 14001, ISO 45001, including cybersecurity and data management courses. So anyone you're interested in, you send us a message. We have training, foundation training, we have lead auditor training, we have lead implementer training as well, and equally transition training for those that took training on ISO 9001 2008. That's the previous version. If you want to upgrade to ISO 9001 2015, you take a transition training, just a 2-day training, and you'll get certified on ISO 9001 2015. So if you need any of these, be it certificates or training manual or material, please, you send a mail to hr@senglobalservices.com. I'm dropping my phone number now. Okay, I just dropped it now, 08036669713. You can call this number or you call the second line, 0809-889-2244 or 0803-666-9713. The two lines are on WhatsApp. You can send a mail to hr@senglobalservices.com. I've dropped the email address in the comment section. So if you want to, okay, please, if you want to request for a certificate, send a mail to hr@senglobalservices.com. It's in the comment section now. Or you can equally send us a WhatsApp message. To the number 0803-666-9713. So contact any of these numbers, 08098892244 or 08036669713, either on WhatsApp or via phone call, or you send a mail to hr@senglobalservices.com. Just send a request for certificate and training material. After your payment, it will be sent to your email, both the certificate and the training material. Please let me know if you've seen the email address and the phone numbers I sent in the group. And then also this meeting is recorded. All right. Vincent said received. Okay. This meeting is recorded. So we equally share the link to the recorded videos to those who requested and paid for the material. It will be sent to you. Adamu asked whether I can get a training manual. Yes. Send your request to hr@senglobalservices.com. It will be forwarded to you after you must have made your payment. Yes, there's a WhatsApp group. Please chat There's a WhatsApp group. Please send a message, send a WhatsApp message to any of those numbers. We'll add you to our WhatsApp group. We have a WhatsApp group for our ISO trainings. It covers for both ISO 9001, ISO 45001, 14001, 5001, and then different management systems for both medical and food industry as well. It depends on your department, on your field or industry. Please, you're not paying for the training manual separately. If you just make a payment of 10,000 Naira, you will get both the training manual, the certificate, and the link to the recorded video. It's just a one-time payment that will give you access to all those materials and the certificate. And then if you want to continue to further the training on ISO 9001, like taking a training on ISO 9001 lead auditor course, you equally contact any of the numbers sent in the chat, in the group chat, and then send a request to hr@sendglobalservices.com. We have lead auditor training and lead implementer trainings as well. We also have transition training and foundation trainings for both ISO 9001 2015, ISO 14001, 45001, project management as well, 21502, and then food management system. We equally have courses on cybersecurity for those that are into IT. We have different trainings for different industries in line with ISO standards and ISO management systems. Someone asked if the awareness training certificate is renewable. Please, the ones you renew are the implementer certificate, the lead implementer certificate, or lead auditor certificate. Awareness training, you don't renew it. So if you are certified as a lead auditor or a lead implementer, you are expected to renew it. It's renewable. But for awareness training, you can retake your trainings just to make sure that you are still in line with the tunes of ISO 9001. You can retake your trainings. It can be every year or every 2 years, as much as you want, as frequent as you want it. So if you want to join our WhatsApp group, please send a WhatsApp message to any of the numbers we sent in the group. Please, for those that are calling me, please, can you call me back, let's say in the next 30 minutes after this training, after this meeting? Imo Friday asked, what do you certify QA, quality assurance, quality control? I guess you are asking the ISO certificate that could be relevant. Yes, ISO 9001 is relevant to quality assurance officer or quality control officer. So depending on your level and your interest, you may go for a lead implementer or lead auditor course and you get certified. And the duration for the training is just 5 days. Okay, so Azubike asked if awareness training certificate is required by any employer. It's relevant. It's relevant. It only gives you an added advantage. It shows that you are aware and you understand the quality management system based on ISO 9001. It only gives you an edge, let's say in recruitment. So if you want to take a course, a lead auditor training or lead implementer training, please contact hr@sendglobalservices.com or call any of the contacts sent in the group or send a WhatsApp message. All right, thank you, Azubike. Thanks so much. And then Friday, thank you. So if you have further questions, send it to us via email or send a WhatsApp message to 08036669713 or 08098892244. So to send your request, please send a mail to hr@sendglobalservices.com for certificate, for training material, and then for the recorded lecture, it will be forwarded to your email as soon as you make your payment. And then if you have further questions, please send it to us on WhatsApp or via email. It will be attended to. And for those that want to further the training, if you want to take a lead auditor course or lead implementer training, the duration is just 5 days. And the learning method is flexible, irrespective of your location in Nigeria. Even if you are far away from us, we have different learning methods, and you can easily conclude the learning within just 5 days. All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm ending the meeting now. Thank you so much. So I'm expecting to see your feedbacks via email and then in the WhatsApp group, and also in my inbox if you have any need for clarifications or requests for the certificate and training material. All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Have a great day ahead.